All right, welcome everybody. Today's topic is my Microsoft Ignite presentation. We're going to go over a lot of details regarding Microsoft Ignite. Had a great time out there. Welcome everyone to the meeting. This is the SQL Server with Access meeting from AccessUserGroups.org. This is your host Juan Soto, live from Chicago, Illinois. As always, I'd like to give a little something special for everybody who attends the meeting. So at the end of the meeting, we're going to have a link. You can download software. This is my little thank you for showing up at the live meeting. Nobody else will get that software immediately, probably later on this year, but at least you'll be able to enjoy it. So Microsoft Ignite. Now, Giorgio, he's from Italy. I'd like to answer his questions right away because I know it's quite late in Italy, right, Giorgio? How late is it over there?
It's almost 2 a.m.
2 a.m., man. You know, I really appreciate it. You know, Giorgio, can I get a round of applause for Giorgio? Because
wow.
he is
well done.
Always a real trooper. Thank you very much. Giorgio. Is that the way you say Giorgio?
You can even do better than that. You can just give me the link right away because I think I'm falling asleep.
All right, so 2246, you were saying something happened at 2246. Oh boy, let's see here. So this meeting here, I'm gonna give you the link in the comment section of Skype. And of course, as always, if you have any problems hearing or listening to me, please consult with either Sam or Lucy and let us know if there is any issues. All right, so Sally, why don't you type in there if you have any problems hearing or seeing the presentation, please let us know in the comments. It's configured to read from the Access backend. What does she mean by that? Let me listen to the recording.
But there's something between it's configured and to read from the Access backend, which I don't understand.
All right, so what it is I was talking about SQL Server Migration Assistant, short for SSMA. All right, so SSMA is what you use to migrate the backend to SQL Server with ease. It's probably probably a godsend if you ask me. And so what happens is we use SMA at the beginning to create the database tables, right? The initial tables in SQL Server. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
You guys hear me? All right, good.
Yeah.
And then throughout the project, we're updating that data with the most current live data from Access. And so the SSMA project, when you create that project in SSMA, you want to save that project because later on, throughout the course of the project, you're going to use that to update the data. Say, for example, I do an alpha version, and actually today I was working with a client who's starting out with their project, explain this process to them. You get started, you create the tables in SQL Server for the first time. SSMA creates those tables, uploads your data. It tells you all the data was updated from every table. You save the project. Maybe several days or a week later, you're ready for your beta team to start testing the database. Well, they want to test it with the latest data. They don't want to test it from 2 weeks ago or a month ago when you grab their file. So what you do is right before beta testing starts, you go get the old backend again, and you right-click in the properties of the Access database SMA, and you say refresh data. And it's connected to that backend, and it automatically refreshes all the data in the SQL Server. Oh my gosh, you don't know how easy that is. In the old days, we used to program that with a bunch of queries, not anymore. And so when we do a beta refresh, we call that the beta refresh, and then sometimes we have an alpha version and then a beta version. And finally, when you go live, you do the same thing. We usually go live at Friday nights. So that's what we were talking about that, Giorgio. Any questions about that?
What exactly were you saying? What's the sentence? You said it's configured and then to read from the Access. But
SSMA. Have you used SSMA?
Okay. So the missing the word that I didn't understand is SSMA. Okay,
yes.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, CTEs is what I mentioned here at 1241. CTEs are called Common Table Expressions. Do you have any questions about those?
Can you repeat the question because I was trying.
Are you looking at my screen here? You see my screen? I have your comment highlighted.
I was just trying to download the from the link that you posted on the chat, but it's just a link to the video.
Yeah,
There's
that's
no.
all it is. I haven't given you the link to the software yet.
Ah, right. Okay.
I'm answering
Right.
your questions here because it's 2 in the morning in Italy, and I feel like if I don't answer your questions now, you'll fall asleep on me towards the end of the
Yeah.
presentation.
What was the question?
Well, your question here says at 2451, you say, learn how to use CTEs during the
Uh,
Microsoft Ignite.
so what's CTEs?
Common table expression. Let me type that in for you.
Ah, right, okay.
Common table expression. All right. Now, how many of you? The reason before I talk about what a CTE is, how many of you raise your hand if you build query upon query upon query when you create, for example, a report, right? You have a first query that does an operation, then you create a second query that's based on the first one, then you create a third query that's based. Have you ever stacked queries like that? Raise your hand if in the comments there, say yes if you've ever stacked queries like that in your Access development. Well, in SQL Server, it's tempting for you to create views that are stacked the same way because that's what you know from Access, right? I do it in Access. Well, let me just create views that are stacked the same way, and it does work. You will have, the server will execute all those views. But the problem, it's not the most recommended way. The better way of doing it instead is CTE. So think of a CTE as a bunch of queries that execute all at once to achieve the result, right? So the first query at the top is CTE, the second query, and they start not at once, they go sequential, but it's a lot faster to execute a CTE. And the reason it's a lot faster is because every time you create a view with CTE or any view, and you save the view, what does SQL Server save with that view? Execution plan, right? So it saves the execution plan with that view, and it optimizes that execution plan over time. So if it notices that people are querying for a particular state, it's smart enough, SQL Server is smart enough to start catching those results in memory and providing them faster and faster. Sometimes when you have a view and your application is used by the entire user population, and I've had user applications that last span into hundreds of people, having that view optimized is a real godsend because it just makes it so much quicker. And so you want to be able to optimize the entire query operation in CTE as opposed to optimizing query one, then optimizing query two, and so forth. All right, so look into CTEs. I don't have a video on CTEs. We probably should do one. Lucy has a lot of experience with those, so I might ask Lucy to present on CTE later on this year. She uses them all the time. All right. So guys, let's go and get started with the presentation. Thank you, Sergio, for your questions. Basically, Microsoft Ignite is a event that Microsoft puts on every year, and in the past, this is the first time I believe we are in Orlando, and it's 50,000 people from around the world gathering in one place, and the organization nightmare that is. They pull it off with a hitch. I gotta tell you, if I'm responsible for a concert for 50,000 people, wow, I mean, it was just amazing. From the breakfast to the lunch, organizing breakfast and lunch for that many people. And they have multiple buildings in Orlando. And so it was quite hot, 90 degrees, so you would go out, walk between buildings from session to session. I have a funny comment on that later on I'll make. But basically, it's a conference that's designed for IT folks with from a wide range of tracks, right? From developers to IT managers. And as you can imagine, when it comes to Microsoft, they were pushing Azure pretty much. Now, there is a YouTube Ignite channel, which I recommend you peruse so that you can pick out videos you'd like to see. And I do like these videos. They were pretty amazing, the production. They don't capture all, not all. If I had a breakout session, so basically you didn't see me in this video, but I was on the stage with Mikhail Barr from Microsoft. But there is a Microsoft Ignite channel here, so make sure that you grab that channel. I'll go and post the link there to the channel here and watch the keynote which was pretty interesting. It was about quantum computing and the advances Microsoft is making there. And so everything's quite organized, as you can see in this video here. People were just in lines, lines move quickly, and we had a great experience. It started on Sunday and it wrapped up by Friday, but Thursday night they closed Universal Park Studios for all of us and Islands of Adventure. Now these are two parks in Orlando, and they're joined by a pathway or by the train that's at Harry Potter. So you could take the Hogwarts Express from the castle where Harry Potter is, which is called, gosh darn, what's that called? The castle where the kids go to learn magic. I can't remember. To a alley, right? Diagon Alley, where you can go buy your wand and your accessories and so forth. And so it was quite an experience. But one of my favorite things I saw was the virtual reality. Now I had a chance to see some virtual reality technology from Microsoft when I was at Microsoft Partner Conference earlier this year. They use virtual reality to design a staircase where people can staircase for 8 people. Let me just stop it right here. They use virtual reality. So let's say, for example, you have an older person in their home and you want to hire a company to come in and put a chairlift, right? Because most homes only have stairs. And if you're at the point in your life where you can't walk them because you're in a wheelchair, well, in the old days, you had to have a tape measure and make notes in a notebook. With virtual reality, you can just you just use a device and you use HoloLens, which is this equipment you see here, to design the staircase in real time, along with the obstructions and path. It was just a amazing example of how to do that. So there's a company already using this to visit homes and quickly design the staircase to the exact specifications needed. Now these HoloLens gear is around $3,500, and it's a self-contained computer. There is nothing more. You put this over your head, and that's it. And this particular chat, which I believe was doing a keynote, you're going to love this because it talks about how Ford is using this to design their cars now. And so let me see if I can catch the beginning of this segment here. And they're using this to make changes to the design before they go into production, right? So she can adjust things there, as you saw. Oh, that was too much. That was just quickly. But yeah, it was really, really neat. So look at the keynote address as well. Now, there was only one access session. I was fortunate enough to be the one there. My access session was about, well, the title of the access session tells you a lot. Let me just bring it back to the title here. There are new ways to apply access to the Microsoft ecosystem. And what's intriguing to me is you have an application like Access that's mature, and you're still able to really push the bar and integrate it with some modern Azure services, which were never designed to begin with to work with Access. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that here. But I want to wrap up the discussion on Microsoft Ignite in general, then we'll go and start my presentation about Azure services and Access. But one of the things that, again, I encourage you to do is go through that YouTube channel and pick out some sessions. I know Lucy saw some of these videos. Lucy, do you have any sessions that you liked a lot that you encourage people to see? Was there any particular that called out to you at all during Microsoft Ignite? I know you watched a few of these. I think Lucy might be having some problems here. Hogwarts Castle. Thank you, Lucy. Sally. Hogwarts is the train that goes from Hogwarts to Diagon Alley. All right, so yeah, go through those videos. Tons of videos. Almost every session was recorded, and it's available now online. And so I do recommend you go through those and see which ones pique you, right? And so Microsoft Ignite's going to be there next year again. I believe I heard somebody said they're going to be there for the next 6 years. Not sure if I'll be invited again to come down next year, but if I get invited, I plan on going. So I have talked about this in prior meetings that we had earlier this year, how Microsoft Azure services are really coming into their own. and it's really quite interesting. And rear door, okay. They say the deposit the package rear door. I'll be right back. Let me just make sure, because again, it's raining. I want to make sure my packages don't get too wet. He says they deposit here in the back door. Yep, there it is. Well, it's one of them. We'll see. All right. The reason I'm so worried about these packages, I ordered some equipment for my family in Puerto Rico. They have no water, no running water, no electricity. They're collecting rainwater, and so really difficult situation down there. And today I shipped 6 boxes of stuff to USPS, from water pumps to batteries, lanterns, and rechargeable batteries. Everything you can probably imagine. All right. So where was I? Oh yes, I had talked about this earlier. And if you go to Microsoft Ignite service, Microsoft Ignite, Azure Cognitive Services, Azure Cognitive Services. Now, these are a set of services that work in a unique way where they analyze something and then they return back a result. And so they have vision APIs, knowledge APIs, everything. The vision one really intrigues me because if you go into vision here, let me go into the computer vision API. I thought it was interesting. So for example, if you upload this picture to the service, you come back with all this data, right, in text format and JSON format. We'll see that in my demo, right? So it says, okay, water, swimming, sport, pool, person, man. I don't know why Frisbee is in there. And then you've got a series of tags and their confidence level, right? So name, water, confidence, say 99%, swimming, 95%. And it's just a great way to be able to search. Now, I could do this on my cell phone with Google. I use Android, so I can use Google Photos and say, okay, I want every photo where I have water, and this is the same thing. But now you're able to tap into those cognitive service and leverage it in your application, which I thought was pretty neat. And so that's just an example of getting some JSON text and be able to do that. So I was in Spain earlier this year, and I got a demo of Q&A Maker. So let me just go there, QAMaker.ai. Let me just kind of copy this and paste it into the chat there. So this Q&A Maker AI, the reason I thought this would be a good bot to include with Access is several things. Number one, in the years I've done Microsoft Access development, nobody's ever asked me to do an FAQ in their Access database. They're just not going to pay me, right? And you mean, think about the challenges. You have to create a table of questions, a table of answers, and then you've got to create the VBA code to parse the questions to do the answers. And it's just way too much work. And really, all this is just to help somebody navigate the application. But with this FAQ service, I'm going to go ahead and sign in. With this FAQ service, I can create an FAQ. And gosh, which one do I use? Let me just use this one, see if that works. Okay, yes. So it's Q&A services. Here, Q&A Maker. This is the page I was earlier now in my services. And this is free to use because it's in preview. So you guys can go ahead and create your own services. But basically what I did here is I can come in here and I can create a Q&A service, create a new service, right? And then it's going to say, okay, what is the service name? And then I can give it a URL. So in my case, I gave it a URL of one of our web pages for Report Generator, which is a product that we sell. And it goes and analyzes the FAQ for the website and then comes back and builds it for you. And then you can edit it. So that's what happened here. I got my Report Generator FAQ. And this is my first stumbling block in trying to use this with Access, because you get this code that's almost for C#, right? You're not going to get VBA examples. So I had to figure this out the hard way with the help of Sandu, one of my developers here at IT Impact. And so it's not intuitive to use with VBA. Look at this and compare this with the code in the sample I'll show you in a second. You'll see there's a difference. But if I close here, edit, one of the things I mentioned in the video is how easy this is to maintain it, right? So for example, I can say, okay, hi, and I can say, and the response can be hello there. And I can edit additional, I can add a new Q&A pair or edit the existing answers and questions, right? And then once I'm done, I click on save and retrain. And let me see if I can undo this pair. I'm not sure if I can delete this one. Let's see here, save and retrain. I'm in a problem here. Please kind of correct the Q&A entry. So I'm going to refresh the page and then do the example. Okay, all right. So here, I'm going to say hello there, right? And then I click on save and retrain. And it's parsing to that to the machine language. And then I click on publish. And now it's ready for me to use, right? And here I can click on publish. So a nice thing about this, again, it gives you another example close, and you're going to need this because this includes your license key. So this long num Q here is your license key. So this is my license key, but since it's free, no need to be using mine. I'm sure the subscription key is here. I'm sorry, this is the subscription key. So once it's published, then you can use it. And what happens is you send it a query, be it a photo or, in my case, a question. I get back an answer. But one of the things, if I go back to my services here, and I click on edit here, and then I can come down here and I can actually test it before I publish, right? So here, test, I click on test, and now I can test it, right? So I'm going to say, hi, hello there, right? Which is what I just entered. And then I can say print report. How do I print a report, right? How do I print a report? And then it comes back with text. It does. Now, how do I print report? How are reports be printed? Those are variations on the same question. And if you're going to do this via VBA, it's going to be a pain in the ass because you have to parse the question and figure out what they wanted, right? This is using the machine language at machine processing at Microsoft, right? Machine learning, excuse me, not machine language, machine learning, to learn and to be able to adopt or reply accordingly, which I thought was pretty neat. So let me go ahead and bring up the actual code here that I use to integrate this with Access. So this is my form here. And I'm going to give you a link where you can download it tonight. Don't share it with anybody else because, again, you guys were kind enough to show up. And so I'm going to do that. Let me see if I can upload it straight to, can I just upload it to Skype for Business, Sally? I think I can. Let me see, meeting entries, Skype meeting options. There's probably a way I can just do it in there. Anyone? I've seen options there in the past where I can just upload content. Maybe not. Skype meeting options. No. All right. So I'll just give you a Dropbox link where you can download the file itself. So let me just do that real quick. And I'm doing this my other monitor. You're not seeing it. Here we go. All right, and access with Q&A API test. All right, great. Copy Dropbox link. All right. So this is Dropbox link, Giorgio. This is the one you want to see. You can download and follow along if you like, or just look at me and download it later.
Georgia's
all right. So what was that?
So Georgie has gone to bed, I think.
Yeah, poor guy. All right. So so basically, I've got this simple form. And what I got here is I can put in, okay, how do I print a report, right? How do I print a report? And then I press enter, and now I've got the nicely formatted response on the left-hand side, and I've got the JSON I get back on the right-hand side. And as you notice here, you probably wouldn't show this to your user base, right? When you do this, instead you would show them the one on the left. But nice little confidence score there. Maybe I'll display that here with another field underneath the answer. So, and it was pretty quick. Now I have 50 megabyte connection with Xfinity Comcast, so that was pretty quick. I thought that was pretty neat. Excuse me. And so up, that's probably the next package. Don't go away. I got it. Okay. Can you hear me? You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I
great.
can hear.
Excuse me. All right. So let's see how this works, right? And I'm sure everybody wants to know how this works. So basically, I'm going to put this in design view, and I'm going to analyze the code here. And we'll bring the code over, and then I'm going to use window key and then plus to zoom into my window here to show you the code easier. Let me see, window plus, let me see, there you go. And I'm going to go a breakpoint here. I get rid of that plus sign. I'm going to do a breakpoint here. Run the application with F5. I can launch a form with F5, right? And then I'm going to say, how do I print a report? I'll just ask the same thing, and then I'll step through here. Now, I created this public module in the application, and I got this test Q&A, and I pass along the question, pretty straightforward stuff. And this is where, man, this is where the more difficult part was, trying to figure this stuff out here. You know, basically I create this object, WinHTTP object, and then I send along my license key right here. This is a variable I decided to put, so you can just put your license key here. And then I use the open method of post, and I pass along the URL, which I also get from Azure, by the way. You get this from Azure, right? And that code base, right? Remember that code base that comes up when you click on view code? That's what you get that there. And then, let's see. Not sure how I can move. Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Sorry about moving all over the place. I got multiple monitors and not sure if, there we go. Okay. I'll leave right there. And then I pretty much create my request here. This is all standard stuff. You're not going to change this stuff here. Basically the same for all that. And this is where the magic happens, right? Click the send command. If you're an Access developer worth your salt, you know that CHR34 is a double quote. So I send my question here, right, along with that here, and then I along with my actual question, and it gets processed by the machine learning. Look, now it's back. Okay, so what comes back is JSON. So now if I do the window negative, press Control G, and I type the variable right itself. So I'm going to say question mark JSON text. That's the JSON you saw in the form itself, right? So this JSON text is just text, people. Nothing special about it, but I use a library that Sandu was kind enough to turn me on to, which was called, which we'll be using here in a second here. So let me just press F8. All right, so I use my library. Let me just, again, expand. So I use a library called parsed, and that parse is based on this class module here, this dictionary module. Now it's called dictionary, and this dictionary is here from this GitHub. So all this is a dictionary that's reading that JSON text, processing and returning it back to you. And because it's Excel and it can run on the Mac, they have these Mac qualifiers here, which you would ignore, right? So in your case, if you're using Access, you just use this. Private dictionary, P dictionary as object. Now I'm not going to go through all this, but I basically got that. And then I've got this module called JSON Converter, which you also can get from GitHub. So there's two components. You got the JSON Converter and dictionary. Now I've been talking to the Microsoft Access team about including this in a future release of Access so that it can make it a lot easier to consume Azure services. And so I'll be posting, probably even during this meeting, a user voice request to add JSON processing to Access to make it easier to consume Azure services. So make it native to the application, right? That would be pretty neat. All right, so I'm gonna press F8, and now I'm in the class itself. So let me just squeeze by here because I don't want to go through all this stuff, and then right-click, debug, exit out of here. All right, and so then I've got my 3 temp bars that I use, and I assign 2 of them to the caption property of the form, and I'm done. So basically, this is not rocket science, right? It was hard to figure out the HTTP request and all that, but I already did the hardware for you guys. Now you can leverage that in your own applications and start using Azure services on your projects. So I thought it was pretty neat. I think the potential there is huge and be able to do that going forward. Well, before we move on, any questions on how to use this particular Q&A maker? Anybody have any questions, suggestions, comments, or ideas? No? Okay, great. Let's move on. This is going to be a short meeting. All right, so yeah, so I noticed that, let's see, Sean, thank you for joining us. All right, so that's how you parse the text from Azure into Access. And there was some additional stuff, which is in the video itself, where we go on and talk about how you can use data connectors with Dynamics 365 if you have the enterprise version of Office 365, right? So this is something that the E3 plans, I have an E3 plan, the E plans, E1, 2, and 3, whatever which one includes Access, then you're going to get these connectors. And so maybe not so much the small businesses, but my enterprise customers will definitely have that, the E plan. They're not that expensive as they used to when they first launched. And so please look at that part of the video there. I think that was pretty useful stuff. But what happened basically is that the Microsoft Access team has spent a lot of time and effort to create the plumbing for these data connectors. And so if you, let me just show you a slide in particular. I thought that was pretty neat. That pretty much goes through all this. And that is these data connectors have a huge potential going forward, right? And I think that, let's see if I can see that particular slide I'm looking for. Let's see, maybe it was there at the beginning of the presentation. Oh, here we go. All right, these are all a ton of data, right? That's available to use on some of the Shopify, Zoho, Salesforce, and it's just and every day you got more and more coming on, right, to the scene. And so the team at Access is committed to making it super easy for you to be able to tap into these data sources. This is going to make your Access application much more powerful, so you can create more diverse and unique stuff for your clients or for your company if you work at a company. So do keep in mind that now that we got that, you want to go to Access User Voice and say, well, now that you've got this data connector technology, I'd love to see you connect to this and provide it with them, right? Because they do a great job of listening to user voice. Thanks, Lucy, for that link. Appreciate that. All right, so I said it was going to be a short presentation. Thank you so much for everybody joining us. If you have any questions, now's the time. So if anybody have any question, any comments, you guys think about going to Ignite next year? No, doesn't look like we don't have any questions. All right, well, you guys are going to let me off easy today. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us tonight. Next month, we'll have another great topic. We'll have our meeting next month, second Tuesday of the month, right? And that would be in November 14th. So keep us in mind. Come back here on the 14th and join us. By all means, join us. I hope you like that. Is that Robert Aaron that's on the line, or Robert? No, Robert from Quintus Insurance, right? Robert, if that's you, say something for me. Thank you. Robert Aaron. Okay, Robert. Yeah, I had another Robert who said he might join us. Thank you, Robert. You're always there, always saying present to our meetings. What do you think about the presentation, Robert? Oh, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. You know, Robert is always kind. He does work for me part-time, so I think he's legally required to say it's always great. But I appreciate it nonetheless, Robert. All right, well, look, everybody, go Cubs. I think the game was suspended today. We're going to play it again tomorrow. But go Cubs, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next month. So download the presentation, the particular access file, so you can see how I did the JSON conversion. And as always, I appreciate you guys coming out, and we'll see you again next month.